Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. I'm your host, Josh, SalvationsElite. To my right is Bash_Bo3. To our farthest right, per usual, is Rex, Shady, Nero. And guys, a lot to talk about today. I mean, we got, ROSTERMANIA updates per usual with everything going on with Paris. We've got the announcement of the format for the amateur scene this year, for challengers and how it's going to play this year. And we've got to talk about today, in the theme of challengers and amateur scene, we're going to be talking about the best players that have yet to get a spot in the Call of Duty League, the guys that need to get a spot and deserve one heading in to Black Ops Cold War. But before we get into any of that, guys, I've got to ask, what's going on?
Josh, I am feeling like a spaceship flying through space, exploring the world, the universe around me. Like, what is that over there? It's a gaseous star. It hasn't exploded yet. We haven't traveled 1 million years into the future. Like, it's crazy out here. So I am so pumped for this. And that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah. I mean, that hoodie I got lost in your hoodie. Just looking at it. It's looking nice.
I love this hoodie.
It is. Yeah. Sam, how you doing?
Doing good. It's November now. I've been hearing the echoes of Mariah Carey. All I want for Christmas.
I know you live in an early Christmas household.
Down, dude.
You definitely live in an early Christmas household.
I do. Yeah. Our tree goes up. Okay. So
when does it go up?
We do wait until after Thanksgiving.
Okay,
but it's literally Black Friday.
Sam,
it goes up.
Or Rex, how are you with the whole when does Christmas season start for you?
It pretty much just started already. Not gonna lie.
Okay, because there's definitely the people who Halloween happens, Christmas starts next day. November 1st. But I'm definitely more on Thanksgiving is kind of still fall for me. Then the day after Thanksgiving, bang, Christmas season. That's when the little tree will go up back here, and we'll have our Christmas tree.
I totally forgot about that.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yes. We're gonna be in season, a lot going on. But guys, we got a lot to talk about today. Of course, first, you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And what we do appreciate a lot is a review on Apple Podcasts. And we got some good ones. We got to catch up on some of these reviews because some of you guys dropped some freaking bombs on us with reviews. So fantastic stuff. But Clueless Paris Legion leaves a 5-star review, the most in-depth COD Esports podcast. He says, move over, CODcast. Accidental. Free shout out. Hashtag no free shout outs.
No free shout outs.
These dudes actually present legit and spicy takes that other show hosts refuse to touch because hashtag friendship league. I listen to these dudes go at it every week, and honestly, I'd be all in on a 2-show per week schedule once the season actually gets going. Jeez. Josh playing the role of moderator while Sam and Rex clash on all topics. Just absolute gold content. The show gets more and more legit every week with new segment drops and their new and high quality setups and overlays. This is my weekly fix of CDL content since none of my IRL care about competitive. Keep up the good work, guys. Wow. A lengthy yet fantastic review from Clueless Paris Legion.
Thanks.
I know the name too.
Thanks.
And we got a lot to go over today. So, per usual, we've got our start of the show now, which I thought was a fun time to go with last time. Our quick question to start off the show. And the question today is, who would be better in Cold War? A better team in Cold War, should I say? World War II Rise or eUnited? So the World War II Rise was Gunless, Looney, Tej, and Slasher. Or the eUnited team of Gunless, Pristini, Arcides, and Silly. So I want to hear what you guys have to say off the rip. I think this is a pretty fun question. Rex, thoughts?
I mean, I can give you my gut reaction. I think the hard part for me, I want to say eUnited because I'm a huge eUnited fan, but I think I'm going to go with World War II Rise with this one, mainly because Silly on Rocker team kind of went on the decline near the end of the year. And then we also have Gunless, who I haven't seen play since the beginning of Modern Warfare. And then you got people like, I guess Gunless is over there too, but Gunless, Looney, TJ, and Slasher. I don't know. I think that Rise team just has a little bit more power there.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm a little torn on it. I mean, Sam, I want to hear your take first.
Here's what I even trying to do.
Yeah.
So gunless and gunless.
Right. You got gunless on both teams.
Right. So cancel each other out. So you're matching up here, right? So
RCs versus Slasher.
RC Slasher.
Yeah.
Looney Pristini. Teach Silly, or would you do Looney Silly Teach?
I would do Looney Silly Teach Pristini.
Teach Pristini.
Yeah.
No, be Looney. Yeah, you said Looney Silly, right?
Yeah, Looney Silly.
Yeah, Looney Silly.
Yeah.
Teach Pristini. Yeah.
So,
would you rather have Slasher or Arcides? Arcides. Would you rather have Looney or Silly?
Looney,
because you're pairing with gunless.
Yes.
So then, would you rather have Tej or Pristini? I think
do you put a lot of weight on Modern Warfare?
But Pristini's teaming with Arcides here, so does that matter for you? Because I think that's like...
Well, you got to think about what Cold War is as well, as opposed to IW. Cold War, I think, is going to be more similar to World War II than it would be to IW, obviously.
Probably. I mean, potentially.
And the IW United, that team only won one championship, right?
I mean, yes, but they were really competitive, like, top 3 finishes.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, of course.
So obviously the Rise team had a more dominant run in their time.
But it's more similar to Cold War than IW is. So I feel like Rise sits with that victory in my mind.
I might take Tej over Pristini. Is that horrible?
It's really close for me.
Yeah.
The thing is, again, I guess I'm considering like chemistry and how it plays out. You've got like the Looney gunless pairing, which you have this year again, but then you have the Arcides and Pristini duoing pairing again.
Well, gunless is friends with Pristini and Arcides too.
And
like
gunless,
he vibes with that,
right? It's like the chemistry is pretty high still on that eUnited team, even in 2020.
Yeah.
I think I though would probably still slightly lean the Rise side, but it's really close heading into like a Cold War game.
Yeah.
It's hard to bet against Arcides though heading into Cold War based off how he's been playing.
So true.
Yeah.
But we did just see Arcides and gunless team, and and they were really good. So again, like even in a 5-person 5v5s, I don't know. I'm gonna go Rise in just the slightest edge.
But you also got Slasher on that team, like consistent leader.
Yeah,
right.
I'm gonna say Rise.
I feel like it's a tough one, but Rise.
No,
yeah.
All right. In agreement.
Well, sounds good. Well, I think we all ended up agreeing on that one.
Yeah, we did.
And if you guys have any more fun, quick question recommendations, drop them down below. But without further ado, guys, we want to get right in to the news.
Let's do it.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
Yowzers.
Whoa.
All right. Well, we're starting off today with the ROSTERMANIA news. Why not? We'll start off with the ROSTERMANIA news, and we'll talk about the Challengers format stuff here in a second.
Get it.
Let's start off again. We had the review from, the clueless Paris Legion. So let's start off with talking about Paris Legion. Basically, CDL Intel posted kind of like the rumor mill of Paris Legion on the year. Basically, all the guys who are connected with Paris, what they've been up to. And I mean, like we all know, nothing's been set in stone at this point. Yeah. Basically, he went through all the guys that had some sort of connection. He went through Hydra, Scraps, Wuskin, Rated, Whalers, Brezzy, Zedd, Dens, Slacked, Jimbo, Pred, Afro. Like just a whole list of players that have been connected to Paris Legion at some point. Obviously, a handful of those guys have now been signed by other teams, and including Hydra, and other guys have been connected to other teams, and
some people already admit defeat, saying they're going to Challengers, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. So the biggest question is what is happening now, and linked with that is Paris's obvious attempt to try to only sign players at the minimum salary. And that's something that was on the Overwatch Reddit, and that CDL Intel has been like, yeah, I mean, this is basically what's happening here is, Paris in both Overwatch and COD are trying to only sign players to league minimum salaries, which explains, of course, why they've waited it out this long to make players as desperate as possible to pick up. So, I mean, thoughts on Paris at this point? Any updated predictions on who you think this team could potentially be, or thoughts at all?
Dude, something is happening other than every team at this point has announced their players, right?
Yeah.
So like Paris should come with like they're the only team left, so you would assume these players are going to take minimum salary.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a big, and I doubt this, some agreement by the pros like, no, we won't like sign their contract unless they pay us more. But that would be like a big
that'd
be
a pretty big deal.
And the pros have to trust each other so much with that to like reject a CDL spot. So I don't think that's the case. But it's so weird. They haven't even tweeted since October 15th. Like, what is going on with this team?
I don't know, man. What are your thoughts?
Gosh. Yeah, so something's got to be happening with like the ownership or something. I know there's a twit longer posted by I think she was somehow affiliated with Paris, but like saying like the reason why there's just no money, and basically she says no homestands equals no money. Yeah, and so they spent a lot of money going into the season, paying a large salary, but then like no money came back in.
Right.
But you know, like you said, Rex, like you're seeing the majority of teams doing fine. So it's like, what's going on with Paris?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it kind of goes back to I think like what their original plan was is like, you know, last year they obviously chose to go with the cheaper player route even last season, which, you know, resulted in them not really gaining any fans last year besides like Australian players or Australian fans, really, you know, and like at the end of the day, like if they're not going to re-sign Australian players, then like they're going to basically lose the fan base that they created last year, and they didn't create an NA fan base. They reached one final.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, they did not do well when it comes to like profit last year or like creating a brand for themselves. Mm-hmm. And like, I could see how like the profit margin was probably pretty grim for Paris at this point versus like a team, obviously like the Huntsmen or like any of the big brand teams that have big name brand players that are at least creating like a brand for themselves based off the players that they've signed. Mm-hmm. Paris is definitely struggling in that regard. So
yeah, I just don't get how you don't like, when you sign up for this $25 million league, like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not behind on the business.
Go balls to the walls on a roster.
Yeah, like you think you're digging yourself in deep for this, right? For the long haul. I know COVID happened and, you know, kind of messed up everything, but I feel like you want to get the return back on your investment, and like you should be willing to put in a lot of money for fans, for future homestands when it, you know, eventually happens again. So I don't know, man. Just a weird.
Right. Crone at this point, you know, doesn't expect them to announce a roster, you know, in the next weeks. He expects them to wait a while at this point.
When's the last day? When do they have to have a roster set?
I would imagine it's probably like early January. So that they could probably wait a while. Because I mean, and again, I mean, as far as we know, you don't have to have a roster submitted even before like the scouting series in early December, which we're going to talk more about. Mm-hmm. So they're probably going to wait for that to happen and see if maybe like a team does well there and they can just pick up a full roster. You know, like that might be what they're trying to do.
Imagine them pick their starters from that scouting series. The scouting series it's just tens, like, or eights.
Oh yeah. Right. It's like teams not teams that win, but teams that like perform well is what I'm trying to say.
Teams are randomly paired together in that, I'm pretty sure, right? Like the coaches and stuff set that up.
Right. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if they want to put a team together in this scouting series, and that's like their test run of their team.
Oh, yeah.
But it kind of depends how that whole format works out. Like how like hardy of a draft is it exact. Anyway, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But yeah, so it's just a weird situation at this point with Paris. I wouldn't expect an announcement for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I mean, probably not till mid-December. Yeah, I would imagine. Maybe not even till early January at this point. So it's just a wild situation.
Their announcement better be good. Well, like if it's just like a regular, just like we picked up these 4. It's like it's just like what? Like, you guys took so long. Like, you got to just point that out. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I mean, at this point, I feel like it might just be a tweet. Like, I'm not really expecting too much more from them as an organization at this point. But The other thing, this week, London officially announced their roster. That happened a few days ago now at this point. Dominate and Shane are coming back as coaches. We got Johnny, Dylan, Alex, Zero as their starting lineup, which is what we've expected for now for quite a while, basically, since the middle to end of ROSTERMANIA, the real mania of it. Thoughts on the roster as it's going to perform? I mean, it seems like a lot of the London fans seem to be pretty happy with it.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, I know we lost Scraps and Wuskin, but since they were gone, this is kind of the team I predicted. Zero was my wild card, but I'm glad Zero ended up in there. I think this team has a lot of potential. It depends if Shawnee can keep carrying the hype he has right now. He ended champs really good. So if he can carry that hype into Cold War,
in the regular season for sure.
He did. So, but if he can carry over champs performance into regular season, this team might do really, really well for themselves.
And if we see Dylan pop off again too, this team could be nasty, dude.
For sure.
And with the leadership of Zero going into 4v4, his veteran leadership, it's
Alex. Literally all four of these players are pretty standout players. So
I do agree. A lot of it rides on how good of a main AR can Shawnee be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they banked on Shawnee with this roster. He was the first one they kept. They built it around him. So
yeah,
which I don't think anyone would have expected that.
I'm so curious what the meta is going to be. Is it going to be a 2 AR, 2 sub meta? What is Zero going to play? Because I know he can bounce back and forth. So.
And he's their flex, so it's how is that going to play out? I mean, Alex and Dylan are going to be their main subs, so it's
I just can't wait. This is a solid roster.
Very solid. Definitely is. It gets me excited, and the potential is there. Obviously, losing Wuskin and Scraps, the brand, the comedy, the personalities of those guys it sucks to lose at this point. But if you're a London fan, you've got to be pretty happy with the team that you got, because at the end of the day, these are 4 of the 6 or 7 best European players out there. So it's
do you think Scraps and Wuskin's package deal thing actually hurts them on getting on teams?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Were they actually forcing themselves to be a package deal?
I don't think they were forcing it, but
I don't think so.
But I feel it's kind of an unspoken thing of you pretty much, if you're getting the twins, you just got to get them both,
Yeah. I mean, they were split up earlier in their careers, with Red Reserve and UNILAD and stuff.
Yeah, but then they got back together real quick. And they didn't do well separate. Not that they did bad, but they didn't do great,
Right. So, I mean, they haven't, they're still trying to find some wins in their careers. And so I can see the argument that this roster is actually significantly better without them, which some people do believe. But, I mean, I kind of see them as a middling team still, though.
I do too.
We need to see more from them before we can call them a contender, right?
Shawnee's my big one. Even Dylan too, to be honest.
Yeah. I was gonna say Dylan for sure.
He has to get back. I mean, one of these guys has to get to a point if they're gonna be contenders. Dylan or Alex has to be a top 10-ish player.
Yeah, gotta
for
be
them
an
to be a
all-star.
contender. Yeah, has to be an all-star.
They have to be able to take over. Dylan took over series in Black Ops 4.
Which is why we saw Reciprocity push great teams to the limit.
Yeah.
In the second half of that year, because Dylan was just slaying out. So I agree. It's definitely fun. So let's talk Challengers format. Then we can talk some of the Challengers rosters that we've been seeing. So the Challengers format is really, really interesting. The CDL announced the official Challengers format this year. It's going to be basically the Elite Series, or with the Elite. They're calling it the Challengers Elite Series. There's still going to be Challengers Cups, and then there's a scouting series early here in the season that's going to be happening here in a month to allow teams to see the young talent.
Yes.
It's pretty interesting overall with how it's going to work. I mean, the scouting series is going to be happening in December, and basically there's going to be a draft, and it's going to allow the coaches of the current teams to choose a team to compete in the series, which is definitely a little weird. It's happening on December 15th, and 48 players from NA are competing, 48 players from Europe are competing, and it'll be an online event where they'll be competing against other players in their region, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, before we get into the Challengers Elite Series, thoughts on the scouting series? There was definitely some controversy circling around, does this really make sense? So thoughts on that, Rex?
I mean, I mean, obviously, it's nothing but a good thing branding-wise and, like, just getting Call of Duty's name out there and seeming more of a legitimate franchise as well to get involved in when they have things like this. So I see it nothing is but good in that aspect. Picking up a team from it, because, you know, Methods and Aches had their little, like, fight with Saint, but I feel like I kind of sided with Saint in that argument.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, it's still a good way to see what these players are going to do. So you can literally organize a team of like your potential sub, put them somewhere, and just watch that scouting series. Like, why do it before the scouting series? Just get your sub after it. It doesn't make sense to do it before.
Right. I mean,
so
do you feel like there could have been a better way to do it? I mean, I feel like again, I don't know. Also, I want to see where you have to go with it. But like, I feel like it's fine. Like, it's all right.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like there could have been a better way to showcase teams. Or like have like an early on amateur event that's actually just the teams they created than just having it be drafted.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. It just seems strange to me. Like, I get the branding, I get the hype surrounding it. You know, it's like,
ooh, it's a draft.
You're taking your best players from the Challenger Series and pitting them against each other and throwing them on a team and seeing what happens, right? Like, you know, like that.
Who's gonna get taken 1 overall?
Exactly.
Who's gonna get drafted?
Like,
yeah. It's like the hype's there.
You can create a lot of headlines off that. But to like, I don't know. I definitely sided more with like Aches there. Just like, I don't know.
I agree.
It promotes stat padding off the.
It does
on the amateur players
because you know they're gonna track KDs during the event.
Absolutely, and there was that meme where I don't know who put it out, but they're basically gonna be, you know, their big Excel sheet.
Yeah.
Sort KD highest to lowest, and they're going to pick their top 16 or, you know, whatever it is from that. So that is what I don't like about it. But for the fact of like bringing more eyes to Call of Duty, you know, obviously the league prolongs and we get money. So
I think what's weird about it is like, you know, the wording was CDL coaches will draft squads from a pool of invited players and compete against teams drafted by rival coaches and general managers. So it's like,
who's getting invited?
First of all, how are they deciding who's getting invited? They said they're going to give more. They're going to give more information on that, you know. And so they said the invitations are determined by challengers points earned during the 2020 season. So how many points did you have to earn to get invited?
Do you think they just go with the top 48?
Maybe.
I feel like it's challengers points earned. Like, you probably have to have a certain amount of challengers points, but then coaches also get a say in, like,
and there might be guys who are undrafted.
But most of the people they're going to pick are going to be in that top 48 of points for the most part anyways.
Right. So
maybe
I don't
like
exactly
there's one
know how it works
out there.
I don't exactly know how it works with players who were on pro teams last year. So, you know, for example, like, you know, Slacked, you know, how many pro points does he have? I don't exactly know because, you know, last year they did say that pros got a certain amount of points. I can't remember off the top of my head. But like it is just a little weird, you know, that that's going to be the problem with like how many pro points those guys have, like who's going to get invited, and like how that comes to play out. And like again, my biggest issue
better be there.
Oh yeah, I mean he will. He has plenty of pro points.
He has to be.
The bigger question is just like, okay, you know, you're going to draft these teams, so you're going to split apart the top 5 teams in each. You know, in division or NA or a region, NA and Europe, because all of those top 5 players or all those top 5 teams, the top 20 players are all going to go to different teams.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, at the end of the day, you're basically playing a glorified 8s versus like, why not just have a tournament on December 15th?
Well, because why do a tournament? Because like you're going to pick up one of those players, and they're going to be a sub player. And if they're a sub player, they're probably not so much practicing with you. They're going to be thrown in if some crazy shit happens. So like when Alex hurts his thumb, they got to throw in somebody. And I'd rather have the person that can get in an 8's lobby and just dominate than someone who's never like, because these people won't be practiced. They're trying to find a sub who can just carry his weight a little bit, you know?
But you're also
they
trying
can
to find
work on their own almost. Like,
but some teams are trying to find a good player who can actually be like a good alternate to someone on their team if they need to make a replacement.
Yeah, and it's not like they're looking directly at like stats. I mean, they're probably looking at communication. They're looking at where they're going on the map to manipulate spawns.
Yeah, but like at the same time, like that matters. Like being a good teammate how about you play with the team that you're actually going to play with at the first tournament of the year?
Well, because they got
just
too many set strats. It's too like the person who's the OBJ is not going to look as good as the person who's the Slayer on that team. Like, just because we put them in a random environment, that's what the sub player is essentially going to be in the pro league as well.
But no team is actually like the good teams are hoping they never have to use this guy and that he'll just be a good amateur player.
Exactly.
And so why
and then
not?
They can breed that talent anyways. Like,
yeah, but like then wouldn't you want to see him in his natural habitat? Like with his actual team he's going to play with and how he reacts with a team that he's actually playing with versus the team that you're putting around him.
They're not going solely off of what this scouting series is either. I'm sure they have they can see their past events that the teams they played on, how well they did. They don't need to know how well they do on their teams. They have plenty of VOD review of that. They need to see these people in random environments because that's what they'll be thrown into if they're a sub, if they have to. So they know they can play well on a team. Now we see them in a random environment. It's like, okay, so if we really need to, this guy can go in and can do something, you know?
I mean, would you rather see a tournament based off the pro points of last season on Black Ops Cold War with the players deciding their own teams, based off teams that they want to play with, heading into Cold War on December 15th? Or would you rather see a drafted 8 lobby? I'd rather see a tournament so I can see Wuskin, Scraps, Slacked, and Enable play together and see how that team would play versus like all 4 of those guys being on separate teams that are drafted by the coaches.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know for sure what these coaches are looking at, but it's not like this is going to be all end all of who they're going to pick up as a sub. I feel like that's the misconception here, and people are thinking that, but it's like they have plenty of other data, and these the teams are probably going in with 2 or 3 players in mind that they're looking at and not even looking at anybody else. That's more likely
for sure,
the
but then
case.
at the same time, if it's a draft, then you're not going to be able to have them on your team. So it's wouldn't you rather just watch them in their own team's environment, playing in a broadcasted tournament where you're going to actually be able to see what they're seeing? I don't know. I would rather have a broadcasted tournament on December 15th.
That's the thing. They already have that. I mean,
but not on Cold War.
I mean, yeah, sure, not on Cold War, but they have it in Modern Warfare.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys would want to see him on Cold War and how they play on a basic COD. But at the end of the day, the majority of these guys are going to be COD pros who were COD pros last year and now are heading in the AM scene. You're gonna see the Slacks and the Enables and the Temps or the Wuskins or the Jerds or whoever it is who doesn't end up getting a spot.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that guy of they're gonna be stat padded. Of course these players are gonna be literally trying to put their best light on as much as possible, and maybe or maybe not, it won't be so OBJ based, and maybe the person that does go OBJ based will have the benefit. Who knows? But I hesitate saying this, but I feel like people are talking like this more so out of a fearful place because these young guys might destroy them.
At the end of the day, I've already said, I would just rather see a tournament.
Simp is going to be a standout star in that lobby, but you see somebody else who is not Simp and maybe he's an old veteran pro and he doesn't do so well.
Yeah. Although,
it's I don't.
What might be a little bit more interesting to me, I guess, is if we don't know if they're going to keep the same team for the whole 4-day event, or if it's going to be multiple different teams. So you actually get to see certain players in a variety of new teams, and then see them in different environments. Because then that might be a little bit more interesting. If you're able to see a guy like Noisy compete on 3 different teams in the span of 4 days. Or a insert AM player here where oh, well, maybe the team's making him better or maybe the team's making him worse. Then you can see how he competes in a variety of different teams, probably playing with a handful of different pros at the same time or ex-pros. Yeah. So I can see the pros and cons in that way. We're okay, well, now cool. Now we get to see, Fire play with Wuskin in this tournament, and that'll be pretty cool to see. Or Fire play with Slacks. Maybe we never got to see that before. So and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for a draft, because Slacks would have only played with pro players. So I can see those pros and cons as well. But yeah, interesting overall. So when it comes to the Challengers Elite series, this is also really, really interesting. So they announced kind of the broad format or the new twist to this year's Challenger scene. Last year, it was just tournaments. All it was a variety of tournaments. You played tournament all the way through the year, just a just a whole line of tournaments, line them up, knock them down format of tournaments. This year, there's actually going to be like a set league style competition that allows the teams to stick together for a longer period of time and compete in these tournaments / competitions / leagues. Basically, how they worded it is it's a multi-week competition series consisting of round robin and knockout matches. The Call of Duty Challengers Elite rules will be announced in the future, is basically what they're saying. So they'll be broadcasted on the CoD League channel. And so it's going to be a pretty nice broadcast, and there's going to be a qualification to compete in these competition series, they called them, consisting of the top 8 teams in the NA competing in their own series and Europe competing in their own series. So with that in mind, thoughts on that format, how it could play out, Sam?
Rip APAC. Ugh.
Rip APAC.
So sad. But in regards to the format, that is pretty cool. Just to like get like a more formal format for our consistent top 8 places, right?
Yep.
So like, like think of last year, like it'd probably be like FaZe, Triumph, Westar, those guys for
and then the consistent other teams that didn't have actual names
exactly
half the time.
Yeah, so that will be cool. Like we get to see those guys, and it's by challengers points.
So they said the wording is top teams determined by challengers points. Top teams determined by challengers points will compete in qualifier tournaments
to secure
their spot in the elite stage.
Yeah.
So you have to earn challengers points to then qualify for the qualifier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that's
how it'll play out.
So basically, I'm excited for this just to see those who are consistent play in a more formal format. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a thumbs up for me too. Like it makes it more like it's more of like a league now. And so like we can follow like these are gonna be the teams that are like they made it in, like, oh, these are the best AM teams, and then they're gonna be all playing against each other in their round robin matches, which is gonna make it nicer because like we're not gonna see them on these streams playing against nobodies and just destroying, and messing around. I bet it even will like lessen how much time they have to spend in these tournaments when they already know they're going to make top 6 already,
For sure. Yeah. Like, I 100% agree with you. I'm definitely excited to see like the consistency, and I think it's going to help encourage like organizations in Europe and North America to like kind of get involved. Because if you can pick up a roster and then be guaranteed like a certain amount of time for that roster to stick together and like work things out and compete together. We talked about this last year.
Airtime, like if they're going to be like video or like recording or streaming the round robin thing, it's going to be like really good.
For sure.
Mini COD League.
I'd also think too, like I think you do also need though increased prize pool then for this. Like
probably
there needs to be some incentive. Like I know airtime is a great incentive, but I feel like an increased prize pool will also incentivize wanting to get into this
and to bring eyes to the tournaments as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if they haven't even talked about. It does say it'll carry a dedicated prize pool. Yep. So yeah. So
the biggest thing for me is like if the COD League, you need to capitalize on having this first year of having so many big names in the AM scene.
Yes.
And like for guys that are like, oh wow, this is crazy. Scraps, Wuskin, Slacked, Temp, whoever it is, John. These guys are competing in the AM scene. These guys are pro players. Like, hopefully they just start running the table. I want to go watch that, and they can get some pretty cool prize pools, and then some pretty nice orgs will get. Hopefully you see eUnited get back involved in the AM scene and like want to pick up guys like that to compete underneath, and like big orgs that come back and get involved in that. Maybe Rise Nation, kind of gets their foothold, back in COD this year with that, and like that's why they hired Pac-Man to help work with his talent in some way. Those are different ways that teams can get involved, and I think it's pretty cool overall, and definitely excited about it with the opportunity that could bring for amateurs moving forward. And again, it's another situation where like it feels like, okay, cool, like I can get to a point where I earn enough pro points that I can compete with the best of them in a series that's broadcasted by the COD League week in and week out, and play in some like really important matches for a good amount of money just by earning pro points. And like it's kind of back to that like more organic like roots COD feeling,
Mhm.
which kind of gets me pretty excited to get back to at least a little bit of what that was back in the day. Yeah, so for sure. I think that's really fun. I mean, any other thoughts of that as a whole? I think it's going to be like really, really fun.
Yeah.
If they can do it the right way and the broadcasting is done correctly, which I think it's going to be. You know, I feel good about it. So
Yes.
Cool. Well, in the AM scene news, real quick, Renegades announced their roster. Fida, Pred, Shocks, Luca. If you notice, no Dens on that team.
Crazy.
Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But Fida and Pred found their way back. Shocks and Luca to that squad as well. I mean, Pred has kind of been like a guy that a lot of people have highlighted as, you know, this guy is one of the best there is in the AMP scene. You know, he was linked with, you know, Paris quite a bit as a guy that they would potentially be interested, which made a lot of sense on paper, I think. Yeah. And they apparently missed out on that opportunity. And they said that they're hoping to compete in the NA scene this year, which would be awesome.
I would say,
love to see that.
If they were playing in the APAC, they would be missing out on the
leagues.
The league. So you would really hope they can play in the NA.
For sure. And I would love to see that team. Mm-hmm. And again, we've seen Aussie talent like be very competitive, like with Mind Freak and those types of teams.
Yeah.
Even at the launch event at this year in Minnesota, like those teams were performing very, very well. Yeah. So I think this type of team could be fantastic even in the NA scene.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Rex? Agreed?
No, I am in total agreement. Like, yeah, it's interesting that Dens isn't there, so you wonder if there's any sort of drama that might have happened, or maybe Dens is going to go back to Paris again.
Yeah, that's possible.
Who knows? But honestly, it looks like a good roster from what I know about these guys, and if they could come to NA, it would be huge for the scene in general.
Yeah, I 100% agree. In similar news, Zedd kind of tweeted like, well, looking like challengers for me. Mm-hmm. He's kind of chalking the idea of going back to Paris, apparently. So looks like Zedd's probably going to be in challengers. In other news, Hitch, brought up the possibility of Karma as a coach. It was kind of hard to tell whether or not he was just like he actually knew something, or if he was just kind of trolling.
Yeah.
But again, we talked about this before that it's not the craziest thing ever. Yeah. At least in my opinion, I don't really know why he would really do it unless he does just something he wants to do. But I feel like he can make it as a content creator, but
absolutely,
I think he can too.
Yeah.
Now
so
I think about it, but yeah,
it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever. I mean, what team would he coach though? That would be the biggest question for me.
Paris. Wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, that'd be awesome.
Paris would get so much more publicity with Karma as their coach.
What if he just coaches Surge? He just goes back like, hi, Octane, I used to team with you. I'm going to start coaching you now.
I mean, maybe he takes an assistant coach job with something like Huntsman assistant coach. Like that would be about as basic as it gets, but wouldn't be surprising. The next kind of juicy news before we talk about some crazy stuff with Cold War and everything. Hastro kind of like made a little bit of news today or yesterday, I mean, talking about like he tweeted, I don't want to be a team owner whose aim is to sell you hoodies and make you watch videos. Like, bruh, what are you trying to say there, Hastro?
Who are you talking about there?
Maybe 100T, maybe Huntsman. But like Hex replied like what you saying?
Yeah.
But Hastro's obviously chill with Hex. I just thought it was really funny. I mean, he said, I want to be a team owner who lets you experience winning, which is ironic considering they just won champs. And, it's easy to say when you just win champs.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That statement doesn't work if you're not winning all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Otherwise, you're Paris.
Exactly. So, like, if you're riding on that and you're not winning champs, then, like,
you look pretty dumb.
Who are you?
Right.
Like, Hex.
I don't know about that. It's like it's a team that's always gunning for winning, right? That's the whole mentality of the Envy brand.
But then where does your revenue come in when you're not winning? You know what I mean? Like you're not building yourself up.
You're getting
for
brand deals because like you're known as like a winning. Like Envy is popular for a reason, and like they don't do crazy on content and all that stuff. But it's because like people will go into it branding wise because like they know the mindset behind the team is like very competitive, very winning focused. That in itself is a draw for people to like the team, which makes it a draw for brands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it. I mean, again, if you're going to gun for winning, I mean, Envy's doing it the right way.
Yeah.
They go all in. They pay high salaries.
Mhm.
They're trying to find the best players possible to make their teams successful. So like
Mhm.
I get that, and Hastro's doing it that mentality the right way.
Mhm.
But like
Yeah.
the problem is if you do it the wrong way,
Yeah.
you're really stuck. It's definitely safer to go towards like the brand building route
Mhm.
and make sure that you have, you know, a relationship with your audience, and then
Of
like
course.
and then try
Yeah.
to win. Like that's probably the safer route to go, but that's not easy to do either, and it can take a lot of time. And so it's just an interesting thought. Like it was just weird that he says like, I don't want to be an owner that aims to sell you hoodies. You know, like
Mhm.
I mean,
I feel like it's like half troll, half serious.
yeah,
you know?
exactly. I think hoodies are cool. I have a lot of hoodies.
Sure do.
So I'm always looking to add an extra hoodie in there. I mean, Dallas, send me a hoodie. I'm gonna wear it. You know, so you don't have to sell it to me. You just send it my way. I'll wear it.
It's just one of those things though, where it's like, it doesn't take that much to like put out content. Like
Right.
put out
Yeah.
a video here and there. I just don't get like why, you know, the people that like just refuse to do any content, that doesn't make any sense to me. I get the winning mentality, but to not like take some sort of advantage of them winning, like, you know, like Shotzi was doing a great job. He was posting content after they won champs. He was capitalizing on that. So I don't know. That just seems weird to me. Like I get it not being your main focus, but just for any player, really, it's like
Yeah.
just
Oh,
put out
for sure.
a few videos here and there, and
Well,
build
for
your brand.
players, it's different. I don't think he cares what players do, but
No.
For sure.
yeah.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that. So I thought that was just a fun little like drama tweet at the end of the day. But let's talk about the kind of the Cold War news of the week that got me a little nervous. So if you guys didn't see, it was announced that there isn't going to be an engine shift for Cold War to Warzone. So Warzone is going to stay on Modern Warfare's engine,
Mm-hmm.
which means that they're actually going to port all the guns from Cold War onto the engine and balance them for the engine to be as competitive with the same weapons that are currently in the game, which is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
So weird. Like, could you imagine if we just brought in Bo3's guns into Cold War?
Yeah.
Like, and they're just like, oh, here's the M8.
Yeah. That's
You
strange.
know?
Mhm.
Like, that is so weird.
Mhm.
What was your initial reaction to that? Because it scares me for like where the priority of Activision's at. You know, I don't know. Thoughts, Rex?
I mean, I was wondering how they were going to do this because, like, clearly they moved differently. Like, does that mean Warzone's going to change? But there's no way they're going to change how Warzone works, like, mechanically, like, to that great of a degree because it is so popular. I don't know. I think I'm okay with it. I mean, I really don't play Warzone that often, but it doesn't really scare me that much, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, the shotgun is like the meta in Warzone right now, from what I understand, and like, you know, it's not the meta anywhere else. So who knows what they're gonna do with the guns in there?
Yeah.
Man, yeah, it's such a strange thing that we now have two Call of Duty modes with two different engines. You know, so
I hate it.
it's strange because I originally thought that like there'd be almost like two different war zones, like a Modern Warfare war zone and then a Cold War
No,
zone.
yeah, but it's acting as its own game
but,
now.
But like now it's a standalone. It's its
Like,
own thing.
yeah, this really makes it a standalone game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess like if we focus it as its own standalone game, but so yeah, like you're right. You can just see Activision just not caring
Completely
about it anymore.
prioritizing Warzone over multiplayer at that point.
Yeah.
My thought is
What makes you think? I don't know if I take it that way so much. I mean,
Well, I guess my
Warzone
biggest- my
obviously is great, but the fact that they didn't change it to fit Cold War, like, they're putting less work into it, essentially. They didn't change the whole engine to make it mechanically
well, no,
right.
it's because that means they show that Modern Warfare is they believe it's the better engine. Like that's obvious. And at the end of the day, what they believe.
Yeah,
And the report
okay.
already came out from one of the reliable leakers that 2021's COD, next year's COD, is Modern Warfare. So we're going back to Modern Warfare next year as a report to the first leaker.
What?
So it's going to be a Modern Warfare 2, but not named Modern Warfare 2. It's going to be called, he said it's going to be something along the lines of Modern Warfare, like Black Ops Cold War is gonna be the same type of idea, like Modern Warfare, Spec Ops, something like that,
Jeez.
Anyway.
Oh man, Call of Duty's just getting weird, dude.
Yeah.
It's getting messy.
Basically,
well, it's because I got these two Infinity Ward and Treyarch now, kind of like doing two different things almost.
Yeah, it's like a
Now
power
they're
grab.
trying to make them work. Yeah, now they're trying to make them work together. Oh yeah, just throw in a ranked play for me. Let's just get that up and running, and then have that carry over to each game, and I'll be happy.
How about this?
Okay.
Activision, we give you Warzone. That's cool. Give Treyarch multiplayer standalone.
Ooh.
You now have Warzone standalone. You have
and Infinite
multiplayer
Warfare
server.
is Battle Royale. Or Infinity Ward is Battle Royale. Treyarch is multiplayer.
Yeah. Like, just let Treyarch.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of how it might be going.
Honestly.
Like, legitimately. And Raven does campaign.
Yeah. So there we go.
Yes.
Just give Treyarch multiplayer. That's all we ask.
I mean, my worry is that basically, like, my hope originally for Warzone was that, like, it would onboard new people into Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And then because you're trying to level up your guns faster, you buy COD and then you play the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And then because you start playing the multiplayer, like, oh, I like the multiplayer. And then we have a ranked play. And like, ooh, what's ranked play? And then they get into competitive COD, and that's how you funnel people into competitive Call of Duty. But now, because you split them apart, people who are playing Warzone, like, it's a completely new movement system now.
Yeah, completely different.
The skill set's not going to transfer as well, so I think people are going to be less hesitant to, like, kind of like move on to the multiplayer. And so my hope for this, like, big uptick in, like, people playing multiplayer because of Warzone funneling them in, now may not transfer as well. Yeah. And at the same time, it's just disappointing for me because it's like, now it feels like I'm degrading my Cold War skills by going to go play Warzone because I'm playing a whole new movement system, recoil patterns. It's not even the same game. So it's like, it's a lot harder of a transition for COD pros who want to play Cold War and then at night play Warzone because you're not actually practicing the same movement, the same recoil patterns, or anything else. Like, I feel like it's like it hurts COD pros quite a bit, I think, because it's like now you're actually learning, like, bad habits, I think, overall by playing Warzone when Cold War's out.
Yeah.
So it's just it doesn't feel good for me, like, and sit very well in that way.
Yeah. Because like content too for the pros is mainly Warzone right now. So like if they still want to put out content, it's probably gonna be Warzone and multiplayer. So they'll be jumping back and forth, and it's like,
right,
what's gonna be happening? Which, I obviously know, like, some pros are very skilled at playing two different games.
They'll be just fine.
Like, like apparently Huke was playing like Fortnite scrims in between scrimmages. So you know they could be fine, but it just seems so weird now that you're basically splitting Call of Duty now into two different fan bases, and you're secluding a possible onboarding of competitive, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And they probably like, some people will never touch Cold War multiplayer.
Right. And so the other part of the news that scares me a little bit, or, gives me different thoughts, I guess I'll say a mixed bag of emotions, is the news that the new Warzone map won't actually be coming out till March.
This is insane.
So that is just what? And so apparently, so this is what scares me, is that people are going to forego buying the multiplayer because, well, we're going to get a free Warzone update in March anyway, so I'm just not going to buy COD. Yeah. So what worries me is the guys who were playing both now might jump off the multiplayer just because Warzone's going to be free to play anyway. And why do I need to buy the multiplayer? And you could argue it both ways. I could see the argument both ways that, well, you could be like, oh, well, good news. Now multiplayer gets the priority for the gun balances and not Warzone. Because the last 2 years, we've been seeing all the gun balances for multiplayer be based off Blackout and based off of Warzone. Yeah. It was only getting changed if the gun was OP in Warzone or Blackout. It wasn't getting changed because a gun was OP in multiplayer. So you could argue that now that we split them, you're going to have more dev support for multiplayer, which is very possible. Yeah. But at the same time, are you giving up too much of the player base, and could it really, really hurt the future of multiplayer? And like, that's where my worries come in with these decisions.
Yeah. Or are they going to be able to make multiplayer even bigger, kind of like we were saying, that multiplayer itself will become a new, like, in a way, phenomenon.
Yeah. Hopefully.
That, like, people are going to want to play it because it's getting so popular to play the multiplayer because it's so, like, extensive.
Yeah, which also what's weird now is like the idea of like Dirty Bomb. Like now it's really weird because now Dirty Bomb isn't a warm-up mode for Warzone anymore because it's not even going to be the same movement system or recoil patterns. So what in the world is Dirty Bomb going to be?
So strange. So many different modes.
Dirty Bomb it's still going to be Cold War engine, right? Like
that's what I'm saying. But like people were originally seeing it as a warm-up for Warzone.
Right.
Like, I can hop on some Dirty Bomb, warm up a little bit, get a lot of action in before getting into Warzone. But now it's like they're not even the same engine. So it's like, how does that even work?
Gosh.
So it's like, I don't know. That's the type of stuff that scares me a lot. And like, so I guess you're going to have to close the app. Like you have to close Cold War to get onto Warzone, I would imagine.
Yeah. That or they like somehow integrated it.
It's just like a simpler like load
just
screen
weird
process.
Because like will like the like main screen of Warzone turn into like
I don't know.
War. Yeah, there's just so many like different questions with that, and it's just we won't know the answer until it comes out, obviously.
Right, and so it's just gonna be a weird feeling. I mean, I'm definitely excited for like I've never been a fan. Like I like the idea of Treyarch maps being themed around old like spots or like nostalgia of the series. So I'm hoping they stick with that for their map. If they don't, then I'm probably not gonna play any Warzone this year at all. I like the Blackout map so much because like you could go to Asylum, you could go to Raid, you can go to all of these awesome maps from old CODs, but they don't have that for this one. I'm not going to care. So I don't know.
Good point.
Maybe it doesn't matter because they have such a big fan base now of just Warzone fans that haven't played COD in the past 5 years anyway. Yeah. So it may not even matter, but I'm ranting like a boomer now, so we'll move on.
You old boomer.
Old boomer. The last part of the news before we get into the top 10 amps who deserve a spot. It was basically like Crim was sticking up. We probably should have mentioned this earlier. Like Crim stuck up for Slacked, like in like Crim sticking up for a guy because of his intangibles. And basically Slack was ranting like, man, I've been winning for the past, 5 years. I've been consistently winning. And now we're back in the challengers grind, And basically Crimsix was just like, man, this sucks. This guy's a winner. He deserves a spot. He's an example of a player who makes players around him better. He's been consistent for years, and he's been severely underrated. Thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
I was just gonna say, you could take it as like they may be friends, and so like he's taking up for a friend.
Or guys
that's one
competed
way.
against.
Yeah, but those are high praise for Crim, who is after winning champs, widely regarded as one of the best players, and one of the most winningest, and so that could have raised Slack stock a little bit, but I just don't know if Slack will get a spot unless like he's willing to take $50K from Paris,
which I mean he will at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, but I don't know. Slack is in a tough spot, and I don't know if he'll be able to prove himself until he starts winning challengers. So
yeah, Rex.
Yeah, I mean it's getting tougher and tougher to be kind of like. I mean, what was he? It was like what average Black Ops 4, and then not good at all in Modern Warfare.
Right. People would say
and then Modern Warfare kind of hit him with another one because like now it's like we've seen all these young guys come up who are like all stars and we're like immediately like amazing, way better than veterans like off the start, right?
Yeah,
better in like KD wise, I guess.
Right. So that begs the question: are there more of those guys out there?
And that's what I think is what's happening to these veterans is like, well, that seemed to prove to work, and then even Dallas's own team with like Shotzi and Illy, like they picked those guys up as like kind of these new guys out of the scene, right?
Yeah.
And it worked wonders for them. eUnited won chances last year with Simp and Abeezy. Like these new guys who were just cracked out of their minds. And so it's like, it's just heading in that direction. So being someone in Slack's position where you're not necessarily a leader on your team and you didn't have a great Black Ops 4 season, did not have a good season at all in Modern Warfare, like that's just a hit that you just took. And
for sure.
They're willing to take risks right now.
Yeah, and just going back down to 4v4, just that's just the nail in the coffin for so many of these guys like Slack. Like, you need Slack needs that other like veteran stud next to him, and you can win. You can win with a guy like Slack on your team for sure. But like, you know, we haven't seen Slack be like the cracked out slayer that a lot of teams need right now. And again, there's a shortage.
It's like a requirement now.
There's a shortage of main SMGs in the league, and Slack just isn't like a cracked out main SMG at this point. So it's like that's the tough spot he's in. And I agree. Like, can he make a team better? Yes. And could he play in the amateur scene and dominate? I would. Yes, I would imagine so. And he'll probably be very good this year if that's where he ends up being, especially if he has like, you know, a few cracked out AMs with him. He can make those guys better and make that team really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, I'm sure we'll do a show closer to when the amateur scene starts about like AM scene predictions and talk about some of these guys. But I'm excited to see how Slack, if he ends up in the amateur scene, performs with a team around him like that, because I think he could be dominant inside the AM scene and kind of show that like he still has it. Yeah. But for now, it's just a tough spot to be in.
I mean, that's the thing. These pros going back to the amateur scene, like, they have to do good. Oh, especially with like how they're talking now, like how did I get, like, I'm so shocked how's the offseason gone for me, yada yada yada. Like, okay, you got to go into the amateur, you got to be great. Scraps and Wuskins, you guys got to go in. You guys got to be great.
Yeah, and you've got to outperform. Really, I mean, Parasite is kind of like the standard. I feel like if you have to beat out Parasite, you know,
pretty much. And if you don't even beat Parasite out, it's like Parasite's gonna get picked up before you as a veteran, because how can they? I mean, he's an AR and sub is different, but
yeah, for sure. But like if Parasite can put together a team of guys that's of amateur guys who's just as good as these guys that were in the pro league last year, like that's so I think that's gonna kind of be like this is really interesting to see how Parasite and the AMs that he's gonna be playing with compete against a team of ex pros.
Yeah,
I'm sure we're gonna have at least a team or two of ex pros.
We always got a heart for Parasite. I hope Parasite goes in and like gets his like AM scene, because I feel like he understands the AM scene on a way, way, way deeper level than all these pros do. Like, he knows the players, he knows how good they are, he scrims against them, he plays in their 8s, like, he knows them so well, and he organizes these teams of people we have no idea who they are, and then they end up being great. Like, it was like a fire. It's like all of a sudden it's like, whoa, who's this?
An interesting dynamic this season will be is like, because the pros are because the ex pros are ex pros, they're gonna be able to get pro scrims though.
Yeah.
And they'll be scrimming against the pro teams right off the rip, like you know, the teams of Wuskin and Scraps and those guys. So, like, you'd expect those guys to catch on to the game faster, because the pros are gonna be very willing to help them out in any way that they can to dominate the AM scene, because they have their back. Yeah. So they're going to have an advantage in that regard, I think, off the rip in the AM scene, versus like the AMs that are still like stuck behind this barrier of being an amateur in the eyes of the pro players. So I think that's going to be a big hurdle for a lot of the AM scene to kind of like jump over when trying to compete against these ex-pros who are going to be at the top of the AM scene.
And that's the thing. If you're an ex-pro, it feels like you have to be a leader on your team. And we already said, like, Slack, he can get a good group of guys around him. So we're basically saying he shouldn't pick up other pros with him. Like, he should go find like his own cracked people.
Right, but that's risky.
But that's admitting that the cracked people are just better, right?
Yeah, so Slack's not going to do that.
In a way. So in a way, it's like, it's hard to win in this situation.
For sure. I 100% agree. So that's what makes it really, really fun. That's what gets me hyped about the future and like seeing how these teams perform, and why I really wish we did have a tournament early on. Like, we're gonna have to like just watch how these like 2Ks start up right off the rip. Yeah. When they start up, I would imagine they'll start up in early December.
Oh, and this will give AM scene some views. It's got to. As long as they promote it right and get that stream, people are definitely going to watch Scraps, Wuskin, Slack.
For sure. And
playing
I agree.
And
that's what makes the showcase series so important, is that there needs to be a lot of hype. You got to have all the main casters there. Hopefully you have the pro players kind of like tuning in. And I'd imagine the pro players are going to be invested, because their fellow ex-pros are going to be competing, in this tournament. And I'd imagine all the pros are going to be pretty interested to see,
how good they do.
How does Scraps perform against these amateurs in a new game, and stuff like that. So I think the pros are going to be interested. I think, the COD scene as a whole should be very interested to see, because this could be a complete changing of the guards if the pro players if the ex-pros start struggling early on in Cold War. So it makes it really, really interesting. So with that said, though, let's head into our It's basically our big segment of the day. The top 10, the top 15 AMs who deserve a CDL spot. Let's get right into that segment. Let's go.
Sorry, son.
Look, just give me a chance.
You've been eligible on your asthma alone.
Is there anything you can do?
I'm doing it. I'm saving your life.
Alrighty, so here we go, baby. We kind of labeled it as the top 10 AMs who deserve a CDL spot, but we're gonna kind of go through like probably more than 10, like give you like 10 to 15 guys to kind of mull over, get your hype for. Obviously, some of them are gonna be guys who could still get a starting spot. I mean, there are 5 starting spots still, or I mean 4 starting spots. I'm sorry, still up for grabs. So in theory, you know, a few of these guys could find their way onto Paris.
100 Thieves.
Or, you know, the 4th spot onto 100 T.
Don't know if.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe so. John on subliners potentially, but so we're gonna go through a sample of these guys. Some of them are kind of like layups. Some are a little bit deep, you know, deeper dives into some of the top players of the year. So Rex, take us away with your first guy. These aren't technically in order, by the way. We're not going like in like a 10 to 1 situation. Right. We're just gonna go through like the top 15, no particular order, because all of them really, really do deserve a spot. Maybe some a little bit more than others, but anyway, over-explaining. Rex, take us away.
So I guess one of my players that I have who deserves a spot, I have Temp on there.
Right.
I mean,
layups.
Honestly, I did not have a great outlook on Temp near the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
and
you were a little low on him.
I was a little low on him, but
and
after
then he saw stream.
I don't know, saw a stream and like, I don't know, got more involved with like seeing kind of what's going on with him. And it seems, I feel like he is a good pickup. I'm not gonna say he's like the best player in the world to pick up, but from what I understand, from what I've seen, his communication is actually pretty good. He can slay out. He's smart about the game.
He just gets a little frustrated
and he brings
sometimes.
good vibes, honestly, to the team. From what I've seen, but those, again, are like, you know, when they're playing in the throwback tournaments and stuff.
Right.
So in-game, I guess I don't know for sure. I always thought he was more like played for himself, but he might not be as selfish as I was.
Sure.
I didn't give him enough credit, possibly. And I think Temp is one of those people who should be in the league.
I've always thought Temp, when he's not frustrated, is a fantastic teammate. The problem is when things start going wrong, he can get a little blamey. Yeah. And then like start throwing blame, and it can start separating guys. And like, you know, he's not afraid to speak his mind. Yeah. And if one guy is costing or he thinks someone's making a big time mistake, he is going to make sure you know that you're making a mistake, at least in his opinion. And so if he has teammates who aren't necessarily comfortable with that amount of like transparency, like that's where things can get a little awkward. Yeah. Or you can like have a Doug Sensor Martin situation where he's just screaming. Yeah. And things can go south real quick. So I agree with you. Temp obviously deserves a spot. And I think we all think he probably will get one.
I think so.
But I'm losing a little bit more faith in what's happening with this optic thing. But we'll see. I think he might get a spot still. Yeah. And if not, he'll for sure get a sub spot.
Yeah.
Sam?
So I honestly thought, my guy's John. I honestly thought that he was gonna for sure get a spot, but
you're definite John stan.
Yeah,
dude, I don't understand that.
Will you let me finish, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you can finish wherever you want.
Okay, let's get off the topic. So John. Okay, John was a beast, right? Up until you could say Black Ops 4, he started kind of not performing as well. And I think like his stock definitely went down in Black Ops 4.
For sure.
But look at like, I just don't get, I think he definitely deserves to be in a starting spot for sure. I know he had a year off. He's been coming out and tweeting about like his health problems more and more. Like he had a second picture of him getting like some sort of treatment. I don't know what it was, but
right.
I just feel like John is an insanely good pickup. A, because of his knowledge. B, his past winning. Like Black Ops 3, John was insane. You know, IW World War II, he was quick scooping people off S&D. Like,
so the biggest question is, does a year off derail him?
Yeah, I mean,
and can he rebound?
I think he was still playing. Like, obviously, I know
he played in one local LAN this year, and he won it.
Yeah,
it was a local LAN though.
So I don't know. I just personally think that John deserves it, and I would love to see someone pick him up and take a chance on him. Yeah. And then if he poops the bed, then yeah, I was wrong.
I mean, realistically, if he's not, I mean, there's a high chance if he doesn't get a spot, he'll team with Slacked in the AM scene, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know, like that would make a lot of sense at least. But I'll get the other two layups out of the way.
There you go.
I'll just throw the twins in one line here and say Scraps. Wuskin and Scraps. I kind of like a fan of Scraps. If the Scrup bros can figure out a way to make this happen, I mean, they're definitely both deserving of a spot, obviously. I mean, Scraps has been, you know, and with Black Ops 4, he was a top 10, top 12 player. Wuskin, the majority of this season, he was, you know, on the fringe of an elite player in the scene as a main AR and a sniper.
Sniping was insane.
And I mean, again, we've seen that there was inconsistency in his game, you know, in previous years, but this year, if it matters at all, he was insane. And Scraps, again, he struggled at points this year, but we saw flashes during the year of Scraps dominating. We're back on a Black Ops game. How did they not have a team? It's insane. 4v4 really, really did them dirty. And I cannot wait to see the damage they do in the amateur scene in the EU if that's where they end up playing. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right. So for my number 2, I have Fellow. He was on Triumph. He was a Challengers champion. He has previous experience. In my mind, he's still somewhat of like a young gun, has that
even though he's been around the scene for a while.
Yeah, has that crackedness about him so he can compete with them. And the previous experience, I think, is like the big thing. And he has that crackedness. So like he's like a very safe bet, I feel like, to take going into a season if you're picking somebody up. So I feel like Fellow is somebody deserves a spot.
Yeah,
Fellow is a prime example
crazy
of someone who could have fallen off of like a veteran that went to the Challengers and just didn't, you know, do anything.
But he dominated.
But he dominated. Like, that dude proved himself. So yeah, I totally agree on that one.
That whole Triumph squad, there's a handful of guys we're talking about from that team today. Like that whole Triumph squad, like, come on. It's insane that those guys are in the AM scene. And then we thought that was insane that they were in the AM scene going into the year.
Yeah.
And the fact that now there's even, you know, another 20 guys who are going to be the AM scene is just mind blowing, whatever. But I mean, like him, I mean, dude, Fellow, he was a fantastic player in the past. And like we saw him on eUnited in World War II. We've seen him on like those complexity squads in World War II and Rise back in like IW. That team was competitive as well. Like he's been around for a while now. And like I really do think he's a solid player. Like it's crazy that he's gonna still be in the AM scene again. I'd imagine he gets some sort of amateur spot, but like a substitute spot. But that's a tough one for sure. Sam?
Yeah. So my next one gonna be off of Team War, which I think we got a few guys on here too. So trying to space them out, but Denza.
Yeah.
I think he for sure would deserve a spot. Honestly, like when we're talking about this, Team War in general, just, you know, a lot of those guys I think would deserve. Denza though, I mean
the Belgian beast.
Yeah, just extremely consistent.
And their dominance on the year speaks for itself.
Just exactly like they destroyed. So I don't know. I feel like pretty much all of Team War could have, you know, fit on here.
Yeah, for sure.
But in particular,
your pick could have just been Team War,
honestly,
and that would have been a fair pick. You know, I mean, like all 5 of them after the season that they had the dominance in a. How do you win that many tournaments in a row and then none of you get picked up to a team?
I know.
Like, what?
Just
and again,
insane.
there's a world where 4 of them end up getting picked up to be the Paris team, which is very possible.
Which would be awesome, truly.
Yeah, it would be. I would love to see that.
I mean, how many tournaments did they end up winning? It had to have been like 10 or 12.
A lot.
Yeah, it was like,
if you're counting
was it double digits?
All of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. If you're counting some of the GB stuff.
Yeah, not counting. Not even if you don't count the GB stuff.
Yeah, they're up in like 8, 9, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean,
that's insane. Like, that's just outrageous. A team should not be able to do that, and then none of you end up getting a chance at being a pro. Like, what?
Yeah.
Unreal. But, yeah, I mean, I would say my next one up that I want to throw out, I'm gonna cheat again here and throw out 2. Also in the European scene, Bids and Detain, another team that dominated half half of that year inside the AM scene in the European scene.
Yeah.
They dominated on Singularity, and the fact that both of them also dominated in Singularity at the end of Black Ops 4 and still don't get a chance to be a pro is mind-blowing. Like, that's just demoralizing. Like, if I'm sitting there seeing that Bids and Detain have dominated this many, like, basically now for over a year, and they're still without a chance at being a pro is unreal. Like, the fact that they placed top 12 at Champs last year, they lose Kleenex, then they come out and still dominate the first half of the AM scene in Modern Warfare, and win how many events in the first half? Like, a lot of events in the first half, and neither of them get a chance at being a pro is just mind-blowing, and they're both very deserving of a spot. So I'm cheating again with my 2 first here, but there's too many good players.
That's okay.
Rex, you're up.
Okay. So I'll say so. Standy, I have as one who I think deserved it. He was also, I believe, on that Triumph squad.
Dude, Standy's a beast.
Yeah, he is a beast. He's destroyed on the map. Also, RC said so it must be true. And if I have another pick, we have to look at Dave or DeQuavi, whatever you want to call him. He was on that Team War squad,
Davey.
But no one talks about him. But he also has like a history in the pro league, and granted, it wasn't great. I think in World War II, not great at all. But he is a veteran. But then he's on this Team War team, and they're dominating. And he's like the veteran on that team who was the best team. So I feel like, and no one talks about him. And I think that's a shame, and he should be talked about more.
Yeah. I mean, Standy, he joins that Triumph squad basically. And the second he joins, that team just starts finding its groove basically. Within 3 weeks, they were on fire, and then they won that Dallas event. And they never looked back after that, and basically were the best team in North America since basically it took them about 3 weeks to find their groove with Standy, and then they were insane. And I think Standy, he's one of the youngest players in the scene that's been this good. At this point, how does a team not take a chance on him as being a potential beast in Call of Duty? I think he's absolutely deserving of a spot for sure. So Sam, you're up.
Yeah. So next one is a guy off of FaZe Academy.
Oh yeah.
Gravity. I think this guy honestly was talked about a lot. When talk about FaZe Academy, I feel like Gravity was always in when who people would talk about.
Yeah.
But FaZe Academy, they struggled at the beginning, if I remember correctly. They didn't.
Yeah, they did. But they stuck together. That was the thing.
But they stuck together, and they started performing really well. And I don't know. I very much applaud consistency, and they were finding their groove, like you said. So I don't know. I feel like Gravity is someone that should.
Dude, Gravity's been grinding for a long time to get in the scene, and he's another guy that it's crazy that he hasn't had a real chance to be a pro. He was on FaZe Black last year when they were really solid as well, and then he joins FaZe Academy, and I refed him a handful of times, and they really good players, really good players, and the success they had in the second half of the year, basically them and Triumph going neck and neck each event, going back at it with each other was awesome, and Gravity's a beast. I agree.
Yeah,
100%. Another guy that I wanted to kind of highlight was Apox, who was again really solid on the year. He had a tough end of the year because he ended up teaming with Aches in the Challengers Cup finals, but Apox has been in the scene for a long time, and he had a great start to the season in Modern Warfare, and in Black Ops 4 he was a really good player. I think he's in the middling tier of guys, not necessarily one of the first pickups, but a guy that I think I would at least want to keep my eye on this year as the guy that if he catches fire early on in Cold War, I think this might be his time. And so Apox is one guy that I really wanted to highlight as a guy that has a chance to really make some noise this year, and deserving of one of those flyer spots on a team if they want to do that, because he could be a guy that really finds his groove. So Apox is on my list.
So I guess my fourth one on my list is Afro. Again, another player from Team War, but this player on Team War was a standout star.
He was highlighted
the best
all year.
Team in EU, possibly the best team of all challengers, and he was the best on that team. So he's one of your cracked young guns. That's like a simple, I feel like, easy. If you're a org planning to take like your risk to get your young gun, Afro is your guy to do that risk with because
100%.
he was amazing on the best team.
Dude, literally. Like, I 100% agree. Like, he's in like the add him to your team, sign him to a spot, and see what happens, you know? And like, if he wants to compete in the NA scene, like, that's how he could do it. He signs with one of the teams as a sub, and then is able to compete in the North American scene, show off what he can do in the NA side of things, and like, and like go from there. And you know, like that's where I could see that potentially playing out for him. But he definitely deserves to be on our list here because he is a friggin' beast.
Yeah. I'm gonna pair my last two together because I think they're a good pairing. Not necessarily.
I might have to do the same thing, dude.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Nagafen and Spacely. So I think some people might disagree with me with Spacely, but hear me out. So Spacely start off with Spacely. Going back to Gen G and Black Ops 4, this dude got
S&D freaking wizard
disrespected by Gen G.
So bad.
He went like 10-0 or something like
more than that.
Yeah, like
map count. It was crazy in S&D. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was teens map count.
And then he gets dropped for whatever reason, which I think he was dropped for Nagafen.
For Nagafen, yeah.
So
and then he got added and then benched again.
Yes. So this dude like made it basically, but then like performed and then for some reason gets dropped.
Yeah. For Modern Warfare wasn't his best game.
No.
Though.
And so Spacely is a guy that is not going to be like your crack guy or anything, but he's been in the scene for a while. Yeah. He knows what he's doing, and I feel like he has the skill
for sure,
and the knowledge to be there. Nagafen even too was like known as like the movement king in Black Ops 3. Like he had that crazy like. And like Redwood, he like went around the whole map, and like or whatever it was. But
and then he had that insane like what was that like an ace play on Hunted where he like used where he used camo and like got like the 3-piece or the ace.
I think so. Yeah. So like
he has some legendary plays, and he's an insane sniper as well.
He does have legendary.
He's
plays.
Got some great gun skill, and he is a veteran, but I think he can be like your Slayer. So I don't know. I think those two guys definitely deserve to be in the league.
100%, man. It's disappointing. Like it's just crazy that like every guy we mentioned, 85% of them we're gonna have to. 90% of them we're gonna be watching.
Yep.
In the AM scene this year, like what in the world, man?
Blows your mind, man.
It's crazy. But yeah, those guys are so much fun. Like I wish they could both be in the league for sure. Well, I'm gonna pair my last two together and cheat as well. I basically have listed like 8 guys or 7 guys at this point. But Fire and Exotic, I mean, come on. These guys got to be in the league, man. My man Exotic should be in the league.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. It's insane that he's not.
Oh, no.
And Fire as well. I mean, Fire's 18, and like this dude really showed up in this year in Modern Warfare. And like, again, once he started joining those, like the Get Better squad, Goonjar, Exotic, Pentagram, Profizi, and then Paul X joined the squad. Like basically they rotated out a few guys, and then Parasite ended up joining. But like that team as a whole, basically Exotic and Fire on the season played together for most of the year, and they were awesome. And at the end of the year, at the COD or at Amateur Champs, it was Parasite, Noisy, Fire, Exotic, Goonjar, and they finished top 3. And like these guys are really, really, really good players. And Exotic again on the year, fantastic. And like I can't believe they're not in the league, man. It's mind blowing. But both of those guys, I think Fire's another guy kind of in that Afro tier of like he's 18.
Yeah.
Someone should probably take a chance on him. Mm-hmm. Exotic's a guy that you can add in to any squad, and he'll be solid for you for sure. And like he could hop on that Paris squad, and I'm sure they would be very, very competitive. Yeah. So those are two guys that deserve to be in the league for sure. And it's just mind blowing that neither of them are going to be on a starting roster probably. Like what in the world? 4v4 is killer, man.
There's so many
12
names,
teams,
dude.
4v4. Yeah. How are there not 16 teams in this league?
Oh, I can't wait for expansion teams.
Again, if there was 4 more teams, basically all the guys we mentioned would be on a team.
Yeah.
Like, they're like basically the next 16 guys up for the most part. And like, once the CDL expands to 16 teams, I think these are the guys. If we had 16 teams this year, basically these are the guys that those teams would be looking at to add to a squad. So there's the podcast, guys.
Mm-hmm. Wait. We're missing one.
Wait, who are we missing?
Parasite, obviously.
Oh,
Parasite.
duh.
He's the last
Well, we
guy.
talked so much about him, we forgot him that we didn't mention him already.
Parasite, big brain.
Yeah.
He's a vet that can raise and identify talent, mold that talent. He's also very good himself. Not that the throwbacks are be all end all, but he goes far in every throwback. And now that should count, but I'm counting it. He also is the highest placing pro, despite being on a million teams, it seemed like.
Literally.
Previous
changing teams every week.
experience. Like, it should be an easy pickup for any like new team who needs like a new leader or something like that.
Yeah.
Paris Legion who has nobody,
Bro.
or a team who is like full resetting. Like Parasite is like that guy. Just pick him up and then have him just organize who to pick, because he knows the whole AM scene in and out. Like he knows who the good players are. All right.
Yeah, it's insane. I agree. I mean, you could literally like just say, yo, Parasite, okay, we're going to sign you. And then you basically, we're going to sign 4 guys and then let you sift out like 10-day contracts as much as you want. Just use our 10-day contract policy and find the perfect team. And then you build it. Like Parasite can probably do that.
And he's not even bad. Parasite's not even a bad player either. It's not like all he is brains. Like he literally has good gun skill too. Like he gets kills. Like it's crazy to me.
Paris could just do that. It could probably work, but I don't know if that's necessarily what they want to do. Also, there's so many guys that we didn't mention that are so good. I mean, like
Diamond Con,
Spoof,
Slack,
Royalty, like Gintroid, Cells, Rex, Charles, Harry, Whalers, Defrag, Nasty, Weeman, Beezy, Phantoms, Asim, Enable.
Oh my God, Asim, yeah.
GodRx, Mox, Kismet, Pander, Proto, Hollow, like
Mad Cat.
oh
Jerd.
my word, yeah, Mad Cat, Jerd, like oh my
so
gosh,
many
dude.
people not playing.
Oh my word, he's insane. Like I'm actually so hyped for the AM scene this year. It's gonna be a blast, and hopefully you guys are as well.
Yes.
But like I said, now that is the podcast. Drop all your comments down below. Hit us up with any questions you guys have, and all your opinions on all things Call of Duty, about what you think about the Warzone switch, the amateur scene next year, thoughts on the format and how it could potentially be improved, and what in the world is Paris going to freaking do with their lives.
Clueless Paris Legion.
Hashtag Clueless Paris Legion, and shout out. But as always, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. And as always, I'm your boy SalvationsElite. To my right is Bash_Bo3 Sam. And to our farthest right per use is Rex Shady Nero. And guys, we will see you next time. We're up.